So when you first started getting out of that really painful state, how did you build willingness to do exposures and to not compulse after your exposures?
I think when I was in that place for so long where I just really wasn't feeling good and was having trouble functioning, I think sometimes when I like am having such a hard time and the thoughts seem like they're so catastrophic, it's almost like that's when I have to surrender. And I don't want to say like surrender to the OCD, but more surrender that I'm having thoughts that like I can't control. And then that makes it so that like I can kind of not get past it, but just like relax a little bit, I guess, and not feel like every thought that's coming in, I'm just like, like it's more real, it's more real. It's like, I just feel like it's like more than I can handle, and it builds and it builds and it builds. And then kind of when it reaches that like point where it's going to like boil over, that's when I just like have to be like, all right, well, these are just all thoughts that like I can't really control, but now I need to like work on kind of like chipping away, like you were saying at these. So I think I get the willingness almost. It's like I wish I had the willingness like 5 things before that sometimes where like I didn't let it build so high, but I'm not, that's the part I guess I'm working on still. But, you know, kind
That
of,
was really compassionate. Yeah.
yeah, I guess like that's the part that's like for growth, but just like figuring out that when it reaches that high point, like that's when it's time for me to like work on doing exposures. And it's almost like that just gives me the willingness to do them in that moment because I know that that's my only option. Like I'm against the wall, you know? So it's like when I'm there, it's time to start doing exposures. And then that builds my willingness, I think, as I do a few, then I'm like, okay, I think I'm still okay. So then I'll do a few more and then a few more. And then it's like kind of builds momentum. And I think that trajectory kind of like tends to work. I don't know. Like I said, that's how it goes. Like it builds, I'm against the wall. And then it kind of like I chip away at that.
Yeah, that's great. So one thing that I want to just clarify, because I like the way you said it, when you were surrendering, you weren't surrendering to the OCD content like it's fine if this is true, but rather you were surrendering to my mind is having thoughts that I can't control. Do you see what I mean there?
Yeah, and that was a big nuance. That's like total oxymoron, but like it's just like that was something that like I had to learn because I think in my head I was like, oh, I'm worse. I just have to like, because you'll say don't brace yourself against thoughts that you have. So I'd be like, okay, every thought that comes in, like I have to be okay with it being true. And like that was really distressing for me. And then when you were like, no, that doesn't actually mean that. It means that like you're just being okay with the thought, having the thought that that could be true. And then that was like a big, I think, turning point for me when I like actually started resonating more, and like I found it being more effective because instead of things going against my values and having to be okay with things that I knew I wasn't okay with, it was like me just learning like more compassion, I think, and being like, I'm a human, I have thoughts, like, and these thoughts like I can't control, and that's okay, and just like having it be like that, and that's enough.